Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Tuesday afternoon. Welcome to Let's Talk Tropics. Good news, pretty quiet out in the Atlantic. We still have Fernand that's out there, but really nothing else showing any interest in developing out there. So really nice to see this, especially as we get closer and closer to the peak of the hurricane season. Usually this week, next week, and the following week are your three busiest weeks. So if we can get through this high tide here without having any tropical systems, that would be a really, really nice thing to see. But we'll go over everything that we've got out there. We'll take a look at the models and see if there's anything to be concerned about. Right now, a lot of sunshine, dry air still in place, 89, although that dew point is creeping upward just a little bit. It still feels like 96 thanks to the heat index. So the humidity up at 57%. Winds are currently out of the northeast at 7. We do have some showers, though, in the offshore waters, and a few of those are sneaking their way on land there over toward Cameron Parish, west of the ferry, getting over there to around Holly Beach and Johnson Bayou, and then farther off toward the west along the upper Texas coast. We've got some rain that's falling there. Elsewhere, we've got widespread rain over parts of Oklahoma, the Arklatex area. That's going to sink a little closer to the highway or the Interstate 20 corridor. And then we've got moisture that's going to be lifting northward out of the Gulf. So the combination of the both of that is going to give us an increase in our humidity and eventually a better chance for those showers and thunderstorms here for the second half of the week and the Labor Day weekend. A lot of sunshine here in Lafayette, also over toward Breaux Bridge and Henderson looking good. Up toward Opelousas and Alexandria, plenty of sunshine there. And of course on the I-10 there here in Lafayette, also looking really nice. Again, we got a frontal boundary to the north that is not going to push a whole lot farther to the south. It is going to bring some of the moisture with it. And then the frontal boundary that brought us that reinforcing shot of dry air is now currently over the Gulf waters, and that's going to eventually wash out and allow some of that warm, moist air to move back inland. So enjoy these couple of days here with a lower humidity because real summer comes back toward the end of the week. As far as boating, not bad out in the Gulf waters. Outside of those showers and thunderstorms, winds will be out of the east at 5 to 10 knots and seas about 1 to 2 feet. And you can see that right there along the coast, we've got a couple of isolated showers. Not a real big deal, but along the frontal boundary out here in the middle part of the Atlantic, you got a little bit more in the way of convection that's out here right now along that front. That'll continue to move off to the east. Occasionally, you can get low pressure to kind of develop along these fronts. Really not seeing that happening right now. So maybe as some of this energy over here gets into the Atlantic Ocean a little bit farther down the road, it'll have a better chance. A little bit of a tropical wave down here over the Bay of Campeche is going to go ahead and continue to move off toward the west. That was near the Yucatan yesterday. And as far as the rest of the northern Gulf Coast, looking at the tour of cameras here, gorgeous day at Panama City Beach and Orange Beach as well. Down toward Dauphin Island, a lot of clear skies. Cocodrie, unfortunately, the camera not up and running today, so we go a little farther to the west. Remember out there, Cameron Parish, upper Texas coast, we are seeing some thunderstorms. You can see evidence of that from these cameras here over southeast Texas. So as far as our tropical weather outlook, the only game in town is Fernand. It is going to continue to move off toward the northeast. Winds are down to 40, so we don't think it's going to last too long, but it might have a little chance to resurgence here before eventually falling apart. And then as we look farther ahead into the next couple of weeks with a global tropics hazard outlook. And by the way, this is going to be updated later this afternoon, but at least for next week and the following week, still maybe a little bit of action in the Atlantic and perhaps week 2 going into week 3 over the Western Caribbean or the Gulf waters. Again, this is going to be updated sometime later today, and I'll have the new graphic for you on Let's Talk Tropics on Wednesday. So let's start with Tropical Storm Fernand, which really has a good circulation, but there isn't a whole lot of convection around the center of it anymore. And as far as its winds, it's down to 40 miles per hour, 37.6 north and 54.6 west, and it's moving off toward the northeast now at about 13 miles per hour. Probably will transition to a non-tropical system here around the midweek. So Fernand didn't get too strong, nor was it really expected to get too strong. Unfortunately, it made its way around Bermuda and didn't have to deal with Bermuda, or the Bermudans folks didn't have to deal with Fernand, which is good news. Central America looking a little bit better. Remember, yesterday we had a pretty vigorous tropical wave that was generating a lot of thunderstorm activity here. That has now moved farther off toward the west and will continue to roll inland over portions of Mexico. And as far as the Caribbean, we have what's left of 99L, which is just kind of an open tropical wave right now that's going to continue to move its way off toward the west. At this point, it's not showing any signs of any organization or reorganization, but it's going to go ahead and work its way over towards Central America, and I do expect higher rain chances there for Central America as we head toward the latter part and the weekend. Rest of the tropical Atlantic, other than Fernand, there's another tropical wave that's kind of getting ready to come off the African coast, while at the same time, there's a significant amount of Saharan dust that's right there near the near the Cape Verde Islands, and that's going to move off in tandem with that tropical wave, and most likely will probably be affecting these next two systems that are coming off the African coast. Doesn't look like things are going to be too favorable for either one of those waves as they start to work their way into the Atlantic. So that's good news. Some of the long-range models are not showing anything from Africa making its way across the Atlantic into the Western Atlantic, the Gulf, or into the Caribbean. Fernand will go ahead and wash out here in the next day or two, and then 99L, that tropical wave that's over the Caribbean, will continue to move off toward the west. So let's see if there's really anything out there. The Euro model, again, as we kind of advance things, just really doesn't show a whole lot. Maybe a little increased wind over the central Caribbean going into the latter part of the week and the upcoming weekend. But anyway, as we continue to kind of work off toward the, let's say, Labor Day weekend, and now we're into Tuesday of next week, Euro model just really shows maybe a little tropical wave making its way over toward the Windward Islands, Leeward and Windward Islands here in about, about a week and 2 days. So this is a week and a half, I guess. This is going to go out to September the 7th. So again, the Euro model, other than that little wave that's there over the Atlantic, it really isn't showing a whole lot of development here over the next couple of weeks, which is really good news considering we're here at the peak of the hurricane season. So let's go ahead and take a look at the GFS. Again, a little bit of a wave there over the Caribbean, but not developing into anything. Perhaps a couple of lows developing on a front there on the East Coast. But the GFS, now as we've gone out here beyond 10 days, is not really showing anything. So great news there. Let's go over to the Canadian model here and see if that's got anything going on. And again, a little more wind over the Caribbean, perhaps a couple of lows along a front on the East Coast, but going out 10 days, you don't really see a whole lot in the Caribbean, the Atlantic, nor in the Gulf either. So nice ridge of high pressure going to stay out there over the Atlantic, so hopefully that'll block anything from coming in our direction. So at least 3 out of the 4 models are really not showing anything exciting here for the next week to 10 days. Here's the last look. We'll go with the Icon, which doesn't quite go out as far. It only goes out about 7 days, but again, as we kind of scroll this along, you got a little tropical wave that comes off the African coast in about a week from now, and maybe another low there off the east coast of the U.S. But at this point, inconclusive if anything's going to happen there. Ridge of high pressure continuing to push closer to the African continent would hopefully pull anything that would develop west of the Cape Verde Islands northward over the central part of the Atlantic. So really, I have to say, for being August the 26th and we're looking all the way through the first week in September, to see things this quiet is really unusual. Let's hope that holds. Water temperatures, again, are quite warm. A little bit of cooling there north of Hispaniola going up to near the east coast. That was where Aaron went through a little over a week ago. And you can see the water temperatures cool down a little bit below normal too, but there's still a lot of heat content over the western part of the Caribbean, southeastern part of the Gulf, and the far western Atlantic over toward the Bahamas. So anything that comes into that area is really going to need to be watched because that's some premium fuel for tropical systems. At the same time, it's really, again, unusual to not see any tropical waves looking any stronger because the wind shear across a large part of the Atlantic basin is pretty low. You've got virtually no wind shear in the Gulf waters except for the northern Gulf Coast, which is where that front is. You got a little bit of moderate wind shear that's affecting 99L over parts of the Caribbean Sea. And then you got a little bit more wind shear out here off the East Coast. But again, that's not really where you see a lot of tropical weather forming this time of the year. Usually your stuff is coming across the Atlantic Ocean, making its way over toward the Windward Islands, and then eventually sometimes you get some that go out into the Gulf waters where the wind shear is quite low. But again, there's just nothing trying to form right now. Some of that might have to do with the Saharan dust, especially over the eastern part of the Atlantic where that next wave is going to come off. That dust is pretty heavy, and the air mass is going to be a little bit more dry. So with all that in place, I don't think anything traveling there across the eastern part of the Atlantic is going to have much of a chance here, at least over the next several days. But do remember, we're at the peak of the hurricane season. If you were talking about August the 26th, so we're right about in that area right there. So almost to the peak of the hurricane season, which is September the 10th. So having no activity out there is pretty unusual, and having nothing showing up in the models is really unusual too. August, we're almost done with August. That's where most of the tracks are of any tropical systems. But look at September. The rest of the Atlantic basin opens up for business. And again, September, we normally see about 3 to 4 named storms over the course of a month. So keep yourself prepared, but let's keep our fingers crossed that things stay nice and quiet here over the next several weeks. Well, I hope you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics. If you do like this video, subscribe to my channel and also turn on those notifications. Remember, you can hear my forecasts on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. And in between, for any updates, you can follow my social media pages both on Facebook and X. And a big thank you to everyone who's already subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today right here on YouTube. Looks like the next couple of days we're going to have some programming changes. Let's Talk Tropics tomorrow is going to be dropped probably a little bit early, but it is going to be pre-recorded. Got some other irons in the fire that are going to be happening here over the next couple of days, and I'll be putting that out on social media a little bit later on this week. But do follow my social media pages for more. And again, thanks to everyone who watched today and who subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and I'll see you on Wednesday morning.